Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to Seattle's fentanyl crisis. Now, I've heard a lot about, the problems that a lot of America, and to be honest, it's happening here as well. A lot of the problems we're having with fentanyl. Like, from what I understand, fentanyl is an opioid, or at least it's very similar to opioids. But it's way more powerful than even heroin, which, growing up, I would hear that heroin is like the worst thing you can try, the most addictive, blah, blah, blah. And, I've heard, I think fentanyl is like 10 times stronger. So, this must be killing people at just huge numbers, And this video is just gonna kind of really show how bad this problem is. Like, what areas that have a lot of people addicted to this substance, what do they look like? Do they still look like functioning, residences, places, towns, cities, or do you literally have people just lying around all over the place? Like, is the place just completely, derelict essentially? Like, it's going to be a very interesting video.
There is no hiding Seattle's drug problem.
Everybody is just giving in to their demons.
It is here to see in the open every day.
Nowadays, I say, man, fentanyl got a hand in everything.
Hamza says he's a recovering fentanyl user.
So the first thing I do is I make them feel comfortable. I don't judge them. I let them know, man, I was right there too.
We met him at 12th and King, where public drug use
So you got people just sitting outside injecting. This is incredible. They're not even trying to hide it at this point. Where are the police?
Surrounds this bus stop, the tragedy of the fentanyl crisis on full display.
But now everyone's making it okay because more and more people do it. There's kids, and they're getting younger and younger by the year. So now it's like, all right, if he's doing it right there in the open, I'll do it in the open. And then boom, boom, it's like a domino effect.
What you see on the streets of Seattle is backed up by the data. Seattle EMS crews responded to 680 opioid overdose calls between January and April just in the downtown core. Countywide, there were 2,600 overdose calls through March, outpacing 2022's record.
2,600 overdose calls in a month. God, that's like almost 100 a day.
Setting year. And look at this,
100
fentanyl
ODs
deaths
a day.
in King County spiked to 712 in 2022, but this year is already on pace to be even worse. Just in the last 30 days, we've seen multiple people overdosing in the streets of Seattle while covering the fentanyl crisis. This day, the user was revived with Narcan after being found unresponsive and not breathing. But this user in an alley behind 2nd and Pike could not be saved.
I think there should be like fentanyl treatment close to here.
And while solutions of both treatment and enforcement are on the table,
The only reason why they're like this is because there's no policing.
one thing is clear. Fentanyl has a firm grip on its users and this city where it continues to take lives every day.
Was it common to lose friends to this drug?
Yeah, man, I lost really good people to it.
And just to show you how common this is in the city right now with drug use and potential overdoses, we're standing here live at 2nd and Pike right now.
What's driving people to this? Is it really cheap? Is it like much cheaper than other things? Because is there a solution to this problem? Like, there has to be something that the government can do.
There's tourists coming and going from Pike Place Market. Is there somebody on the ground there unknown what's going on with that person? We'll go check on them. But that's just part of life down here. We've already seen multiple overdoses and fire responses down here just over the course of the last few hours. The CDC says one of the problems is that this drug, fentanyl, is being laced into other drugs and people may not even know that they're taking it. So they warn any sort of drug use could potentially be fatal. Reporting live in Seattle, Jeremy Harris, Como News.
Jeremy, thank you. And now we're pleased to welcome Seattle Police Chief Adrian Diaz to the Como studios to discuss the fentanyl crisis. And Chief, previously you told us that your officers had basically collected enough fentanyl in the first 3 months of the year to kill the entire population of the city. In your estimation, in your experience, is this the worst drug crisis the city has ever faced?
It's the worst crisis that I've seen in my career, so 26 years. And we've, seen a spike in heroin and methamphetamine at times. but nothing like what we've seen in fentanyl. And just in the last 2 weeks, we've recovered close to what would be equivalency of about 250,000 pills just in the last 2 weeks.
Chief, Mayor Harrell announced
250,000 pills in the last 2 weeks. So if you stretch that out to a month, that's 500,000 pills. So in a year, that's 6 million pills. And if this, because they say it's this powerful thing, right? That would kill like thousands of people. I don't know, guys. What can be done about this?
Announced his fentanyl plan here about a month ago. A lot of it is to do with distribution, getting rid of the, breaking up the distribution of that terrible drug that's going out into our community. Do you have the staffing to back up that plan? And how do you enforce laws that are seemingly disregarded on every corner, every day, all the time? How do you even start to get a grip on those laws?
So what we've really focused on those that are preying on our community. And so just in the last 2 weeks, we've covered close to about 250,000 pills. And we focused our efforts in and around that downtown core in 12th and Jackson, and also up on Aurora corridor as well. And those that are actually dealing, those are the big people that are bringing in a lot of the fentanyl. And so we might end up getting a user or a person that's delivering on the street, but then sometimes we're able to then acquire additional narcotics from their supplier. And so those are the things that we're really trying to make sure we focus on, is getting the bigger distributions that are coming in. If we're hitting $250,000 just in a couple weeks, we could just totally imagine that how much is actually coming into the city.
But you have the staffing to do that right now.
We're actually doing operations almost on a daily basis to try and make sure we make an impact on it.
Chief, this cycle is vicious, from the dealers to the addicts and then everyone else who is caught up in the middle.
Yeah.
What is your message to small business owners that live in this city that have really felt the brunt of the crimes that are seemingly happening by addicts or criminals trying to feed an addiction? Mom and pop shop owners who are desperately trying to stay alive. We've seen the smash and grabs, extremely costly. Some have left, but there are many more who are still fighting and trying to stay here. What is your message to them?
We've actually seen a lot of people return to work, and so we're actually seeing the streets and roadways a lot fuller, and that actually helps us with crime prevention. It helps us actually get people to those mom and pop shops that are actually doing some of the businesses, because we're concerned about theft out of those small and pop businesses. Because if theft hits them, and over again, burglaries or windows being broken. I've listened to quite a bit from all of the business owners, and those are the things that we want to be able to have more population occupying the streets.
Any of you guys watching this from North America or anywhere in the world really, do you know anybody that was addicted to fentanyl? Did they manage to get off the addiction? Is it like what drove them to fentanyl to begin with? Did they start on like weed, and then they gradually got into more and more harder drugs, and eventually that led them to fentanyl? Like, I'm just trying to think, because if this drug is so dangerous, like multiple people are overdosing, why would you try it? But then I guess, they did say that they're lacing other stuff with fentanyl, so you might not even know you're taking it.
And then we're going to do, good enforcement when it comes to those that are really, distributing out the drugs. But then we also have to make sure we've got good people that are doing outreach work, education, and diversion into services. And so it's a comprehensive plan. I mean, it just can't be just the police department operating. We're going to do our part to make sure that the cities the streets are safe, but we need others to be at the table as well.
Chief, these problems this city and this region are facing are so profound. You said it's worse than anything you've seen in your long career. Do we even have what it takes anymore to fix those kind of problems? Do we have the leadership? Are we tough enough? Are we smart enough to actually not just mitigate, but solve these problems? Does Seattle have what it takes?
I'm excited, actually. The mayor has actually put a lot of investment into addressing the homeless issue. This is also, there's a lot of fentanyl that comes in around the homeless nexus. We've actually done a lot. It's actually reduced a lot of violence. We're actually down almost 19% in violent crime. A lot of that has been a reduction in the nexus around homeless encampments, shootings, and specifically a lot of that's being distributed. It's the narcotics that is being distributed around those homeless encampments. And so we are having this balanced level of making sure we get people services.
Yeah, I guess if you're homeless and you're having to sleep out in the cold, you're going to need something, I guess, like fentanyl to numb the pain, maybe. Where so if you get them off the street, maybe there's less appeal to take it.
But also doing enforcement. So I feel like we're moving and trending in the right direction, but we have a long road because it took us a long time to get here. And now we're finally doing that level of enforcement that we really need to do, giving us the authority and also this new legislation that's coming out of the state is going to put millions of dollars into diversion as well. Because at the end of the day, I've got to be able to educate people to get people not using this, to not have that user to be able to have address then the people that are dealing the dope.
A lot of work to be done. All right.
Police Chief Adrian Diaz, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time this evening. We sure appreciate it. And of course, best of luck to you and the department.
Thank you.
There was a time when the Rose City smelled sweet.
I feel like when I grew up, we had an independent spirit. We were kind of tougher than everybody else. A little bit hippie, a little bit hipster.
Erica Hetfeld is a third-generation Portlander who had settled in with her family to the affluent neighborhood near Reed College. A dream home near the cherry blossoms and a tea shot from downtown. What changed?
There are two types of people in Portland. Someone who's had something happen to them and someone who will have something happen to them. There's no in between.
Hetfeld says her perspective
what?
changed after a man broke into that home in 2021, stole jewelry, money from her kid's piggy bank, and went through a medicine closet. She says police were slow to respond, and the man was never found. And so she moved to the suburbs, frustrated by what she says is a city with an addiction and public safety problem.
You get in more trouble in Portland for parking in a handicapped spot than you do having a baggie full of fentanyl that could kill a busload of kids.
Wow.
That's wrong.
Data
That's
from Portland State
crazy.
University and USA Facts shows that people have been leaving Multnomah County, which includes Portland, almost 9,000 people since 2019, at a time when fentanyl overdoses have gone the other direction. People we talk to on all...
It seems, yeah, that it's around the time of the pandemic that things have really exploded in terms of fentanyl use. I wonder if there's a correlation there, like if they're connected in some way. 2019, that kind of time.
Both sides believe Oregon Measure 110, which decriminalized personal possession of drugs and was approved by voters back in the fall of 2020, changed the direction in this city. The number I've seen is fentanyl ODs up 588% between 19 and 2021. Correct. How much does that state measure factor into what you're dealing with here? Ted Wheeler is Portland's mayor and says any good intentions with decriminalization were overwhelmed by bad execution.
Crazy.
Part of it is because we don't have substance use disorder treatment to any great capacity in our state.
Sleeping in a
Measure
box.
110 was brought to the ballot by a group of Oregon residents with the hope that on one hand they would decriminalize small amounts of personal use of drugs, but in exchange there would be substantial new resources going into treatment.
How much did Measure 110 affect what you're dealing with here?
You know, Measure 110 is a really great illustration of right problem, potentially not exactly the right solution, right?
Sarah Holland is the director of supportive housing for the nonprofit Central City Concern.
Not only the increased presence of fentanyl, but the strength of it.
And works to stabilize the lives of some 13,000 Portlanders. She says the challenge has only grown in the past few years.
We have an infrastructure problem that can't meet the need that existed before Measure 110, and certainly can't handle the number of individuals right now who need those services so desperately.
If you're a drug addict on the streets of Portland and you get free food, free housing, free water, free needles, and have $2 fentanyl, why would you put yourself into treatment if you don't have to go?
I want to understand that you're making a connection between the decriminalization of hard drugs and the break-in at your home.
Absolutely.
With everything you just said, what's the solution?
In my mind, we have to repeal Measure 110 that legalized hard street drugs. The folks who passed that measure promised treatment instead of jail time for drug addicts.
Until then, Hetfeld believes there will be more people like her heading further down the Oregon Trail as long as the crisis remains at the front door.
This is a big problem, and I honestly don't see, unless you get a massive financial intervention from the government to try and get loads of people off the street at the same time, you know, get them into, I don't know, secure rehab facilities, like monitor them closely, like make sure there's no way drugs can get into those facilities. Because if you can get them off the streets, then the demand for the drug goes down sharply. Even if it's just for a short amount of time, it goes down. And if you continue that effort, when new people come onto the streets, get them immediately off the streets into, you know, secure rehab facilities, then hopefully the dealers leave the area. And if people can't get hold of the fentanyl, you know, I don't know, that's just an off the top of my head solution. And that can be done, you know, like how expensive would that be? I mean, if you threw a few $1 billion at it, you probably could make a big dent in this issue. But at the same time, if someone's addicted to fentanyl, unless they are ready to come off, unless they really want to, you can't force someone. Like, addiction is such a powerful thing that people will find a way to get it, like if they really want it. So my solution might not even work. Honestly, it's a tough problem. How would you solve this? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.